Hello. So thank you guys for the super warm reception that the other video received. I also received some feedback from other people. The main feedback was that the video was too long. So for the other videos, I'm gonna split them up more, and I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. So today we're talking about the matchups of Dredge, only the tier 1 decks. So let's get started. So in the January 2025 meta, there are 3 top decks that are winning more than the others and can be considered tier 1. At the moment, the meta is a very fast meta with game-winning combos. Dredge is still able to compete, guaranteed that you don't see decks that play more than 4 graveyard 8 pieces. I would say 4 graveyard 8 effects, it's the maximum that you can afford to encounter with Dredge. At the moment, due to the speed of the meta, you need to see your sideboard guide, your sideboard cards fast, right? And because of this, you need to side in a lot of cards against many decks, specifically Mono Red and Glee. For a long time, I had a very diverse sideboard, right, with similar to the one I presented in the other video. At the moment, it's not possible to play a sideboard like that because it does not affect the matchups against the other decks well enough for you to actually justify a diverse sideboard, right? You need strong hate pieces that are that can be seen quite early against most of the other decks. So having said this, let's get into the matchups. So starting with Affinity. Affinity is definitely the easiest of the bunch of the tier 1 decks for us to face. It's an artifact-based deck, so Instant Grudge is great against it. Game 1 is definitely the hardest for us, but that doesn't mean that it's not winnable. I would say that it's a 50-50 in game 1 because we don't have our very strong hate pieces, and they have basically main deck graveyard hate. So you're gonna lose game 1 more than any other game 2 and 3, especially because Affinity needs to basically be aggressive in the first turns to kill you. Because the moment that you have the moment that you have enough creatures to shoot 1 or 2 giants, Affinity will have a very hard time even removing the giant from the field. They do play Cast Down, right? But still, that's their only clean out that they have, and many lists prefer to play Galvanic Blast. Be aware of Galvanic Blast, for example, in case you are low on life. Although this shouldn't be the case, especially game 1, when you still have your No to the Bones inside the deck. Be conservative with your Dread Returns and Giants in the graveyard. If you have a Dread Return in the graveyard with 6, 7, or 8 creatures, and you can use it, so you're gonna get to like 10 or 9 creatures, do it. Right, bring back the Giant, because you never know when they're gonna need to spellbomb you, and you need to give value to the cards that you have in your graveyard. Lastly, with Instant Grudge, be careful when you are actually shooting the Mirror Enforcers, right? Try to basically put them in a position where they cannot recognize bargain the Mirror Enforcer. Lastly, game 2 and 3 are much easier for us because of Instant Grudge, right? Because they know that we are siding in Instant Grudge, they will have a much slower end. Because if they keep a faster end with a lot of untapped lands, we can just sponsor them out. And they're gonna die 99% of the time if we start breaking all their lands, right? So overall, Affinity is definitely the easiest matchup of the all tier 1 decks. So Glee is the first of the 2 Glee decks that we're going to see. In general, Glee is lower compared to Golgari Glee, and that makes it much better for us, because we really don't care what happens on the board until we are killed by a deck. Glee trades a little bit of the speed and consistency of the combo to basically play a more mid-rangey version of Glee. It's important to remember that Glee, compared to their Golgari counterpart, usually does play 2 Nihil Spellbound main. Against any type of Glee deck, it's important to understand that when a Lizard or a Writing Chrysalis is on the board, you always need to have chump blockers. And especially against Chump Glee, it's better to have chump blockers that are not very small, like a Satyr Wayfinder, because they can break it easily with a Karkling Shaman. The need for chump blockers comes from the fact that if they can attack with that lizard, even if they don't see the third card part of the combo, so usually it's Glee, Lizard, and makeshift munitions or Nadur's Nightblade. Even if they don't see the third card, which usually is the one that they struggle the most to find because they play it in less copies, they can just win through combat, right? So always have a chump blocker. Usually the best one is either a very big creature, like a giant, or an imp, because it can fly, so it doesn't die to Karkline Shaman. Post sideboard, this changes because they have breath weapon. But in general, you should be aware also, obviously, of Tamiyo Safekeeping. Although, if they have Tamiyo Safekeeping and the combo in standard lists, right, of Dredge, it's very hard for them to it's very hard for us to win. Regarding Ray, right, which is a card that you're gonna see in basically all the Dredges lists or the sideboards of Dredge. Ray is not used to kill their combo because they're playing usually 3 or 4 times safekeeping. We're just forcing them to have another card that they have to play to combo, right? And usually, because we mill so much, it's very easy for us to see the Ray of Revelation. So sometimes we can just hold them down, right? Slow them down, and not have them combo because we have that Ray in the graveyard. The strongest Ray usually is the one that you never activate, right? So that's it. Last thing that you should be aware of is their sideboard. Weather the Storm, and Breath Weapon are the key cards here. They usually side those one in, so be aware of them. So Golgari Glee is the version of Glee that you don't like to see. It's a pure combo deck that has basically replaced the mid-rangey plan of Chand with more combo cards and more gas just to combo. If game 1 against Chand, I would say it's still 50-50 because it just depends on who's faster and who has if Chand is able to interact with you well enough with, for example, Karkline Shaman, or even by beating you down with Chrysalis. Golgari Glee, it's very similar to you in the fact that it doesn't care what you're doing until you're not doing something that kills him, but it's just gonna try to have his game-winning combo. So usually against Golgari Glee, you're gonna lose a lot of game ones, and you need to basically correct this post sideboard. This when I made these lights, I was thinking that maybe the deck was not seeing that much play compared to Junglee, but at the moment there's a version that's basically just splashing Chrysalis, but it's practically a Golgari version that has been going around for a while, and so maybe more sideboard hate should be included for this deck because they're playing so many protection pieces and discard effects like Juris that it's quite hard for you to win just by basically going with Ray. So all the rules that I said about Junglee still applies. So what I said about the blockers and what I said about weather and breath weapon, be aware that they can utilize weather much better compared to the jump version because they have a lot more spells that they can chain during your end phase. But in general, what you should be aware of is that this version especially is probably the worst matchup out of all the tier 1 decks. So Mono Red is the last deck that we're going to talk about today. being so fast, mono red can even win game 1 against you, although you're playing 3 Neo to the Bone. In general, when you get to activate your first Neo to the Bone, you usually win against mono red. The problem is that when they don't let you activate your first Neo to the Bone, right? The window of activating Neo to the Bone, it's very small, and I'm even pondering putting in a 4th Niao in case Golgari Glee becomes even more prevalent, because usually, yes, now it's useless against them, but you're gonna lose game 1 in any case against Golgari Glee. So mono red, we're usually somewhat favored in game 1. Game 2 and 3, we really need to be aware of the fact that they're playing Relic of Progenitus. If they were not playing it, we will be mostly fine, honestly. In game 1, the game plan is just mirror yourself as much as possible, gain as much life with Neo to the Bone, and then kill them later when you can get to a giant that is dealing 20, right? But the problem is that when they put down Relic, you have to break it as soon as possible, because you cannot mill yourself so much and not gain life with Neo to the Bone, right? If I see a Relic, I cannot go with my usual game plan that I do against other decks that play Relic, which is, okay, I'm just gonna mill myself until I find a Grudge. That graveyard is gone, it's okay, I'm gonna rebuild it later. I cannot do this against the mono red, because being so fast, I'm gonna be dead when I start rebuilding my graveyard. I think that the best sideboard cards against this deck are Ratifex, maybe, but I still don't know. I've had some success with sideboards that were playing a lot of Ratifex, so either John in Sorrow or Breath Weapon, but that was really overkill, right? I was basically swiping, like playing board wipes that were swiping their board at least twice every game, right? Which is a lot for mono red. And mono red adapted to this by playing Cassian Flamebreather, which is a very, very problematic card for us because it's very hard to interact with it. Like, we have a very hard time to interact with it. So yeah, that's mono red. I hate it. I hope Goblin Tomb Raider, I don't know, gets banned, although it shouldn't happen, honestly. But yeah, just try to survive. That's the game plan against mono red. So the last slide that I want to show you is sideboard options that you could consider when you're going to a tournament. The first sideboard that I'm going to show you is the one I wouldn't usually recommend, right? So it's a very broad sideboard that has something to side in against basically every deck. The problem with this sideboard, obviously, is that you're not gonna win so much against tier 1 decks. You're only gonna lose a little bit less, right? So in general, I will suggest this sideboard only if you're going to a local tournament where you don't expect the meta to be, let's say, so competitive. Or also if you just want to do day 2 at the Geddon, right? Usually at the Geddon you find a lot of wacky decks, right? Especially in day 1 when they are not when they're not really have been weeded out by the strong tier 1 decks. So in general, I would say only bring this if you really don't know what to expect. The second one is for online play, mostly leagues, right, where mono red is much more prevalent. As I said, I still don't know which are the best real cards against mono red. I think the sweepers are at the moment the best thing that you can side in. You need a lot of them though, so I'm playing 7 sweepers here, for example. You could even put the 4th Niao in the main, you know. I don't want to do it because I already cut so much stuff from my main deck and so many creatures. But yeah, this is mostly for mono red. You're not gonna lose as much against him. But the problem with mono red is that sometimes he can kill you on turn 4, right? So when you get to Breath Weapon, it's already too late. The last one is the one that I would suggest, is the one that I played today. It's a little bit of an innovative sideboard. It plays Seal of Doom and Eternal Witness. So you basically have a more control-ish playstyle against Glee. A lot of this sideboard is against Glee. It's 8 cards only for Glee. Um, and I believe this is the best sideboard just because I know that at least here in Italy, all the best players are playing Glee or some version of Glee at the moment. Because here in Italy, Glee is considered the best deck by far. I would say it is actually. Like there's the deck is incredible. Like you can play through anything. It is because of a very specific meta, right? There are no control decks, but that was what I thought. That's what I thought when I made this sideboard, right? I want to play Seal of Doom. I want to have enough interaction with him that basically they run out of Glees and Lizards, right? And Evolution Witness serves that purpose. Um, in this version with this sideboard, you also have to play Rebel by Maverick in the main, so that you can basically bring back the Evolution Witness, even either play it or bring it back with a retro turn. Start getting back your Seals of Doom that you have previously milled. Usually, you're going to see a Seal of Doom also in your opening end or through Malevolent Trumbull. That's why you also play Maverick. And in general, I don't have that big of a sample size, but every time I play this sideboard against Glee, I always won. So do whatever you want. I would say play this list if you want to compete at a high level. So this is the end of the video. Special thanks to Lego Popper Milan and Lego Popper Adriatica, the two local leagues where I play, and their representatives, Andrea Forti and Daniel Sciuti. Also thanks to the Pauper Dredge Discord, right? The section of Pauper in the Dredge Discord. Special thanks to Lion's Rage, Midai, and Arnold Schattenspringer, which are the ones that I mostly exchange ideas with. Lion's Rage is also helping me write the primer by making a transcript of these videos. Midai is actually writing his own Dredge primer, and we are now thinking about like merging them together. And thanks to you. Thank you for watching. Okay, see you guys. Bye.